that. It's the same way when we came home and your parents will ask you, why didn't you get A? You heard about A. Do they have two heads? This is the time to frame that statement in policy now. Introduce it. Why don't I have 50 women-led exporting companies in cocoa in Oyo State? GB agriculture. Why don't I have 50 women-led cashew-based business? Why don't I have 50 blah, blah, blah? Why don't I have 500 teachers in STEM, female teachers in STEM in Oyo State? Why don't I have, so you begin to set your target, and I'm the principal, right? Yes. So it's all because that's what I'm talking about. He said visionary leader. And I'm the principal, and you want funding it every day. That's my money. People are abusing me in the newspaper, on radio, on this, on that. So I need to see that money work in a way that aligns with the vision that is measurable and actually competitive, right? And coming from my potential, my actual potential, I don't see those things. So then you now look at the schools. This type of school cannot produce this type of. Local governments are the engine rooms. Otherwise, you will die. So this thing, the structure of itself already tells me they are not seriously committed to the outcomes. Because by this structure, it's too centralized.
It can't. It's too centralized.
So, inclusive education is linked at the end of the day to all of these other deeper conversations. It can't be divorced from them. But from a textbook position, there are many easy. I'll draft a document. I have it. I wrote it for them in my policy brief on strengthening, education in emergencies. I talked extensively about what things they need to do to strengthen gender-based, schooling and education. They can copy and template it. That's not where the real pain point. That's not the real problem.
Well, it's a whole lot. But it must be said, and the journey starts from someplace.
Governorship leadership is coming in when?
2027, isn't it?
Oh, I'm just hoping that whoever is going to be trying to vie for office, if they don't have agenda, don't make sense, he can just be picking from here. I shall already give you how to carry it out. Because honestly, we must see this change. There's so many questions I would have asked, but from this last batch we just did, just covered.
I want you to, we have a segment dedicated to storytelling and shaping identity, addressing her as an author now, especially children's books and all of that. So I want you to just take it up from there, and from there we'll just start rounding up.
Okay. All right. So. I know that some men you work with undeserved youth.
Underserved.
Underserved. Why did I say undeserved?
English is English.
Undeserved youth. We know that beyond certificates, you said a lot about what Nigeria needs beyond just certifications. But as regards writing children's books, which are rooted in culture and leadership, storytelling. Why would you think, or how do you want to say that storytelling shapes the identity and the future of our children?
There's nobody who hasn't had a story. I think that even those who haven't had the privilege of the classroom have heard a story, right? Stories will reach you through the radio, or through your grandmother, or through your, church.
Africa and storytelling are inseparable, I think.
Yes. So they are instruments. It means that's one way, again, to program a mind. In fact, when they wanted to teach us to certain character molding values, they used stories to, buttress or, illustrate. So stories are powerful instruments for shaping the minds of children. In fact, it was Umukiwa Thiongo of blessed memory, died last year, the Kenyan writer.
Weep Not Child.
Exactly. He said that children's literature is the first battlefield for the mind of the African.
Yeah.
He was coming out of, the post-colonial African, the aftermath of colonialism, and he recognized how these people, through their storybooks, were just continuing to assimilate us, to shape us, to help us demonize ourselves and romanticize them. And so, they are not here again on our soil. but they are still
inside our heads. Yeah.
We are just foot soldiers in their hands, waiting for instruction because of these kinds of elements. So stories are very critical, and stories are didactic. You can use it to teach moral values. Stories help you to convey information, understand your history. So stories for me are one of the ways that we can, heal some of these ills that we're witnessing. One being, for instance, this prioritization of wealth as a singular denominator of success. Mm-hmm. When I was growing up, there was space for the teacher or the school principal. In fact, in a meeting, when you think about the setting of a
yes, in the society,
voice. Yeah. Today, the professor is mocked. So nobody's going to pursue. That's why do you think there are no teachers when we talk about teaching as a reject? Because you don't bargain. I mean, every profession is a bargaining chip for esteem. Yeah. You're bargaining for esteem. When you walk into a place, you want to be respected. We're all wearing an invisible sign, respect me or value me, honor me, right? So if my profession can't give me that, I'm in trouble. Then you find them now trying to find other channels. And so, wealth. So we're living in the times where we're defined by one single denominator. Money is dangerous for a society. I try to capture stories that show examples of wealth defined differently. Influence as well, for instance, a person that by just when you hear their name, even that name itself unlocks wealth. The person does not have money, but people will rush, right? By reason of some courageous deed or something they did, or some act of sacrifice, patriotism as well as well. Because so I tell stories of those kind of individuals, whether coming out of public sector service, very quiet corners, not necessarily whose fame was not gained out of money in their account. Yeah. So that children can see that I can be reputed in a society, I can be distinguished, I can be honored because I did this. So I'm returning back to values again that ensure the wheel, the engine, is turning. Because if all of us are wealthy, but we are all roast, and we're all thieves, that's a society in descent. If all of us are wealthy, but not inventive, that's a society ensnared by another society. So we have to pursue, and they're supposed the ecosystem, the people with wealth are supposed to service the people with knowledge. So I produce the knowledge, I give you my prototype or my patent or my this. You invest in it and build your companies. I have my intellectual property. It's an ecosystem. But when you don't reward this one, then everybody then begins to see only this space, only this domain.
As the means of getting rewarded.
So we then abandon this. And then we'll not be running to, when you want to have a baby, you'll be running to them for their medical services. When you want to cure your cancer, you'll be running to them for, whereas your evidence shows that you were, in fact, some of the evidence which you even separate Samuel. Thank you. You were doing these things. Mathematics came from you. You were building, you understood geometrics and your pyramid, you showed evidence of understanding all those things before this whole thing came. And it is on the basis of that these people started unlocking some of the laws of nature, for gravity and all the different laws. And that's how they grew their aviation sector and all their industries on the foundation of these things. So we must return. Otherwise, we are not going to build any industrial base. We are not going to build anything. We are going to be selling what is natural in our soil. Then we go and find it. And anybody that is in that kind of system is the victim, is the worst off. So these are, you won't even know you can't even calculate what is in your soil. You can't even calculate what is in your soul. So they will come and ensnare you by some of these things. So this is why I present these stories, because I can get a child, before a child encounters a law, it grows up and becomes a routine. I've shaped them. Yes. I've shaped them. So, and stories can be told by even the most illiterate woman. Yeah. She doesn't need to go to school to know a story and recount a story. So they pass through the barriers of schooling and literacy. So stories are far more fluid and penetrable than any of these other means. Stories get to places where the formal laws have not gotten to. So stories are very potent, and stories are visual because children are learned by visual images. So when I wield the words, the child is visual, so it stays. So this is why stories must be told, and the kinds of stories that then become important. Stories about who we really are, not what was told to us. Stories about what we can be. Stories about why not to be. These kinds of stories. So we have to revive those real stories again.
I like that. I noticed as we were speaking, I just remember that recently I picked up a textbook. Before I get there, I was watching TikTok video, Instagram reel, I'm not sure which, where one of the councilmen was attacking the school superintendent of that district. I was asking him, these things I'm seeing in these textbooks, are you aware of the trash? And go like 10 different books and just get touching them on the floor. Like trash. How can you be teaching this to the children? How can you be telling these kind of stories, showing nudity and all that? And then I've seen a few textbooks in the curriculums coming up that shouldn't be textbooks in the name of stories. I want you to speak to that because people are also taking advantage of storytelling and bringing material into schools that have no business.
None whatsoever.
One of my kids wrote an exam last year, and I was like, wait, what happened with this particular subject? And he was trying to explain, and I'm like, wait, how did you get that answer? He said it was in the textbook. He was being taught. Please go and bring the text. Did I miss when I was checking through? So I didn't expect that because textbooks are coming in silently, gradually as storybooks, but they are teaching values like alien to us and have no business bringing that home.
So I mean, this is why I said earlier that educational institutions serve the ends of political institutions. So there's usually an agenda. Hopefully it's a positive agenda, but there's always an agenda. And whether we got the agenda or grand vision, these are all terminology.
Agenda is very spot on.
Good. So at the end of the day, when, for instance, gay activism reached its zenith, and the Supreme Court, of the United States approved or allowed for gay marriages and all whatnot, you had sudden, in fact, before, because states are very autonomous there. So some states were already, the blue states and the more liberal states, had already overhauled their textbook systems to reflect the cultural environment and context they were dealing with. Where a girl or a boy comes to school with 2 dads and 2 moms. You can't still be reaching a family is made up of a father, mother, and children. So you already see. So at the end of the day, the textbooks were contradicting the realities around it. So the textbooks had to match those realities, right? So they had all those experiences. But the point I'm making is that there's an agenda and your school system sets an agenda. If you have no agenda as a leader, there's going to be somebody else's agenda that is going to be infiltrated. For a long time, the agenda or the obvious manifest, operations of our school systems were serving colonial agendas and new colonial agendas. Until Africa wakes up and becomes aware of what is its own vision. We now have Vision 2063 that the African Union has put forward. Can we then review all our educational institutions?
How real are those Vision 2063? Are you sure they're not?
4 years away.
So they're just paper tigers because at the end of the day, they're nice statements. They're very nice. They're drawing on the paper. But in reality, if you understand, is there something on the ground that can...
That's
you and I as leaders, when you do, you have to operationalize. Operationalizing means you teach everybody, you carry them along, they buy
day to day, step by step.
Systems, you set activities in motion that can, give effect to it, gain reports about how it's running, evaluate it, tweak it. You understand? That's the system. So a lot of these mismatches. Now, to the point about these infiltrators or the truth is, that's why I said there's also the politics of education. To even introduce a textbook into Nigeria today, the system has collapsed. Money is what is talking in many places. So the regulator or the gatekeeper is compromised. Sometimes they are even aware of what's happening and they let it slide. And who keeps them accountable? So who is the school principal? That's what I keep saying. Who is the school leader? Who is the school leader? And this is where the school leader, because Nigeria's curriculum is nationally defined and the states then adopt, right? So there has to be that harmony between the federal ministries and the state ministries. The systems or the gatekeeping structures that regulate the textbooks or update the textbooks. What's the sanctity of those systems? You understand? We know the circus that's happening to get your books instead in the ministry. I'm somebody that they kept encouraging because of the kind of books I'm writing to come in to introduce my textbook, my books as part of a reading list, even if not textbooks. For some of these, if you know the cesspit or cesspool, I can imagine that these places are to get. So if money becomes money will talk and bullshit.
Sorry, is this at the state level or at the federal level?
All the levels. It starts from all the levels.
Because we're trying to get the book into the
all the levels.
in Abuja.
And a lot of the school you're talking about, your child is probably in a private school. Private schools don't even have that much gatekeeping. It's not